Good morning. This is Bill from Out of Europa, Naples on a muggy Florida Wednesday. It's muggy now. It's going to be hot later. It's going to be muggy and hot for the next 6 months. And that pretty much sums up the weather report. You know, every time I do a video, I'm going to give you that anyway. But you may as well know there's no change at all. We've got 6 months of misery coming, and that really isn't helping my already depleted mood, which is absolute crap over, what are we on now, like day 40 of the apocalypse. I went into Publix the other day, and everybody but me had a mask on. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. I'm walking around in there, everyone's wearing a mask. I don't even know where to get a mask. As far as I know, they're all sold out. I saw one guy in a bandana, like a 60-something guy wearing a bandana, trying to look like one of the bad guys from Young Guns, and instead he just looked like a geriatric retard. So this has just not been good for the fashion sense in the general populace. It's not working very well. The mask thing just doesn't cut it. You know, I'm thinking about ordering off eBay one of these vintage World War I gas masks with the big tube coming out the front, going into a canister, the eye goggles over the top of it. At least that would add some panache to the whole mask thing, which, yeah, they're probably already too much money as it is. You know, I'm sure there's been a run on vintage World War I gas masks, but we're not going to go into it. What can I tell you about it? Nothing that you all don't know. I mean, I'm on like day 8 of being essential. I don't feel any more essential than I did when I first started the essential thing. That hasn't changed at all. In fact, I probably feel less essential in many ways. I've been reading the comments, which, you know, I think about responding to them, but now there's just too many to respond to. Plus, I'm a crabby old bastard, and surely that's going to come out if I start doing it. So I just want you to know that a lot of the comments that I read, other than the ones pointing out that I'm some kind of weird, small Jewish homosexual, I'm very appreciative of, and I really thank you guys for the support. It means more than you could know. Anyway, this is a 2000, by the way, I am not a small Jewish homosexual. Well, I'm small, at least in the height department, but yeah, I don't know. I think I would have made a great Jew. I wish I had been a Jew. It didn't work out that way. I ended up being Irish Catholic, which is unfortunate. And it's not that unfortunate. I do have a Polish side, and so I got the Polish humor with the Irish temper. It works out quite nice. And the homosexual thing, you know, never worked for me, but I always thought that I would have made a really good homosexual. Those guys always, everyone that I meet, they seem happy, they seem successful, they seem to be all the things that I'm not. So I do have a certain amount of jealousy, but you know, as it worked out, I'm doomed to like women, which is an absolute curse. In fact, you know, I've often thought about escaping the heat, and one way to do that would be to climb Mount Everest or some other big mountain somewhere. And you know, they'd say, Bill, how did you do it? You're this, you know, paunchy, balding 50-something whiskey cigarette guy. You know, okay, because it got me out of the house and away from my girlfriend for 2 weeks, and I got to escape the Florida humidity, so it's a terrific motivator. I really should try mountain climbing sometime. Who? I'd be dead by the time I reach base camp. Anyway, I have today this 2008 Jaguar S-Type, and I labored over whether or not I should do this. You know, it's a pretty car. I bought it actually at a collector car auction, which you wouldn't have expected it to turn up there, but it did. And my heart went out to it because it's finished in that sea frost color, which I think is really pretty. It's got very classic Jaguar styling, although, yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. And otherwise, it just is a very handsome car. But the S-Type, what can I say about it that hasn't already been said? Probably not much, but I'll do it anyway. So here it is. You know, they came out with this thing in the late 90s. It was much anticipated. There really wasn't a baby Jag before this one, and the Jaguar wanted a commercial success. They now had Ford calling the shots for them. So Ford came out with this LS platform that also, by the way, they ran the Thunderbird on, and they decided to build a mid-sized Jaguar on it, something to compete with the E-Type or the BMW 5 Series, and here it is. And it is unmistakably a Jaguar, at least in appearance. You've got those 4 round lights, you've got that little grill in the center, you've got the leaping cat on the top of the hood, which, you know, is debatable. And sweeping lines down the side, nice curved roof line. It is very much a pretty looking Jaguar, but it's also, I don't know how to put this. You know, there's these developments in Naples that what people do, they go out and buy 300 acres of old tomato field, and then they build all these McMansions on it, and they put a name on it like Ye Old Chelsea Gardens, or, you know, Piccadilly Circus, or some other name that doesn't, you know, beckon to its tomato field roots, but instead beckons to the, you know, the lovely, rich heritage of adding E's on the end of words that don't need them in Britain. And to me, that's kind of what this car is. It's a little bit of the Emperor's New Clothes. I mean, you've essentially taken a Lincoln LS or a Ford Mondeo, you've given it a Jaguar body and some Jaguar accoutrements, and you're trying to pass it off as a real Jaguar, modeled after the original Mark II sedans in the 60s. And to some extent, they did make it work. I mean, the appearance of the car is that. It is pretty. It is a lovely retro modern design. But yeah, you know, we're not fooled. I'll say this, you know, it's like, when I was just back from college, I went to college in Ireland for a couple of years and met some Irish guys, and we started a band and decided to come back to Tampa and try to make the band work, which it very much did not. But I will never forget the look on one of my bandmates' faces when we were watching TV, probably some stupid show, and a Lucky Charms commercial came on. And the look of horror and offense on his face, he looked over at me with these big Irish eyes and said, Jesus, you know, is this what you fucking think of the Irish? And what could I say? I mean, how do you defend a Lucky Charms commercial to an Irish guy who's never seen one or heard of them? And it did not work out well. In fact, the band broke up pretty quickly thereafter. And to me, that's what this Jaguar is to a large extent. It's not really the British idea of a Jaguar. It's the American and maybe German idea of a Jaguar. You know, do this sort of swoopy styling, put little round headlights and vintage styling cues on an otherwise pedestrian sedan, and package it as, you know, ye old lovely mid-sized Jaguar sedan. And they did, and it was a commercial success. It doubled Jaguar sales. They sold a lot of these things, even though they were kind of expensive, and people did dig them. But I'm not sure that the British did. I think the proper British guy, you know, looked at this thing as the Irish guy did on the Lucky Charms commercial. You know, it's just too on the damn nose. It's time to move forward. And if you're not going to move forward, then at least be completely true to the traditional roots. Hopefully they did wire in some electrical problems and other issues to make you feel like you're in a Jaguar. But anyway, let's just get into the damn thing. Look at the pretty wheels on the car. I mean, the styling is pretty. I do like the swooping lines. I think the sides might be a little bit too busy. You've got that beauty line under the door handles. You've got another line on the rockers. They did smooth that out by the time this one came along. In fact, we have an early S-Type over here. Let's see what the difference is. Also a late XK. That'll be coming up soon. But here is the early S-Type. You can see it has that early grille, which I'm not a big fan of. I like the mesh that they came out with. Well, yeah, it had that big sort of door impact strip down the side, which I mean, that's just too much. I mean, you've got now 3 distinct lines plus the rocker panel line. It's just too damn busy. So for this model, for the 08, the final incarnation, they did away with that line, the impact door ding line on the side. They also put the R grille. You could get these things in several different trim levels, from the 6 to the 8 to the R, and the R was the sporty one. And if you see the bumper on this thing, this is very much the V8 grille, the middle of the road, not the R. But this 08 has the same grille that was on the R-Type spec car, so that looks pretty cool. Also, I do like the mesh grille. I do think that was an improvement over the grille that was on the earlier cars. Nice judicious use of chrome. You've got chrome mirrors, you've got chrome around the windows, you've got chrome strips in the bumper, chrome trim on the grille. Of course, your leaper, that was legal. It is breakaway, so it won't disembowel pedestrians in an accident quite as easily. But, they did manage to make it look fairly handsome. Let's get into the trunk. I don't know how you open it in here. We had to order a key for this thing. Only came with a valet key. All right, so the trunk immediately looks deep or looks big, but isn't. It's actually quite shallow. So even though it goes way down in there and you seem to have plenty of room, if your cargo has any bulk to it, like, one of those 16 packs of paper towels that you can no longer get at Costco because of all the hoarding assholes out there, you might have trouble fitting it in. That is overcome a little bit by fold-down rear seats. So if I pull that guy there, that little tugger, come back here for a minute. Yeah, then I can fold down the rear seats and reveal another place that the detailer didn't bother to clean. And that does add a certain amount of utility to the car that it wouldn't have without it, obviously. There's the original mats in this one. If I pull this up, what do we got? We got the battery back here. There's a front license plate thing. We've got some floor jack for putting it up, whatever. All very nice and proper. What you'd expect to see in a Ford Mondeo. And lovely all around. You also have one of my favorite little things. I've always thought about making a coffee table book of warning stickers on things because I'm just fascinated by them. And here you can see this one. If you use your hand to tug the handle, the trunk will open and you can run to freedom. And that's a nice feature if you're locked inside the trunk, which is unfortunate because if you've put your toddlers or infants back there to keep them safe as you're driving around, they may figure that out and be able to, release and escape from the trunk. So you may have to come up with a way to either hide that or tuck it behind the fabric, make sure they can't get it. I suppose they could also pull the rear seats down and escape through there. So you may want to put an anvil on the back seat or something to keep them inside. Nice little Jaguar trim around the back. Again, very much, it has a lot of Crown Vic to it, as much as it does Jaguar. You do have some nice twice pipes there, like the impact strip in the bumper with the chrome. You can see it's got the little backup sensor beeper stuff. Yeah, all very nice. Have a look under the hood. Tomorrow I might do that ridiculous H2 over there. I'm thinking about that if it makes it through detail. I haven't done one of those in a while, and I always enjoy how stupid those things are. How the hell do you open this? I found it. Okay, so this is the 3-liter V6. This is the base engine. It's basically a Ford Duratec from the late 90s with a little bit of Jaguar tweaking. Aluminum head, that sort of thing. Variable, I think it's all aluminum. Variable valve intake, that sort of thing. It works out pretty good. Well, variable valve timing, not intake, sorry. Probably variable intake runners, but also VVT technology. And it does the job. It's, 300 horsepower. It's a little bit more peppy than the Mercedes or BMW V6s of the same era. And, it's good enough. And by '08, it was mated to a ZF 6-speed. Earlier, it had a Ford 5-speed, but this one would be the ZF in '08. And that's a pretty damn good transmission. That's just cookie cutter. They use it in a lot of cars, like the same generation Maserati Quattraport had the same tranny. And, oh, God, you can't say tranny anymore. I can't stop saying that. Anyway, okay, it had the same transmission. And it worked pretty good. It became, it's the transmission that made the Maserati a reasonable car to have. Anyway, everything nice under there. A lot of people do prefer the V8s in these things, but I just can't bring myself to trust a V8 Jaguar. I can't bring myself to trust a V6 Jaguar, really. But anyway, all very pretty. You've got your leaper there, and then you've got your angry growler right beneath it. So anybody on the front of this thing is going to know there's cats on the way. Here's another thing they did. So they took this LS, or this Thunderbird, and stuffed all this British leather into it. And, you know, it worked. So you've got this sort of rich-looking carpet. You've got the piped seats with lovely leather that feels... I mean, the back seat looks a little cramped. I don't know if your Canadians are going to be ultra chipper back there. They might be a bit cranky. They might, you know, jostle the rear seat. But, you know, you should stick them in there because at the very least, their backs are going to be against the backrests, and then the kid in the trunk isn't going to be able to open it and come in the interior. So, you know, these little wood trim panel things are all very nice, but they're so obviously designed to make you know that you're in a Jaguar. They're not really part of the overall vibe of the car. They're just sort of, you know, this is the whole thing with the Emperor's New Clothes, like those, you know, ye old Chelsea Palace condo units. It just, you know, it's a impression of being British by somebody who probably isn't. Oh, God, there's the semi-retarded detailer coming. At least the truck's been reliable for him. He hasn't had to drive any of our crap lately. He is managing to destroy it piece by piece. The other day, he yanked out all of the trim in the back so he could fit in some kind of ridiculous woofer box. And supposedly this... He couldn't even have seat belts, so he's driving around without seat belts so that he can listen to that... I don't know, one of those rappers, maybe the physician who does the beats or whatever it is. He drives around listening to him, and it makes everybody miserable. But now it has no seatbelt, so he's got to figure that out. But anyway, I don't know. I suppose I was young and retarded at one point, and theoretically I changed, but I don't know if I was ever that retarded. Anyway, let's get in the front. I'm sorry, you're not supposed to say retarded anymore. I know I'm working on this stuff. Okay, again, you know, they did this stuff where it does look like a Jaguar. You have sort of this lovely two-toned, creamy, and then taupey, and then you've got the wood, and you've got the rich ivory leather, and you've got the piping, and, you know, at first glance, at first thought, you think, wow, what a pretty car. But then you get into it, and it does feel like a Mondeo with wood trim. But anyway, it's got power seats. Nice, recline, all that stuff. Again, very pretty. You can't really fault them on it. The fit and finish is good. None of the stuff is peeling off or flaking off. Obviously, these are straight out of an Escort or some kind of European Ford, but that probably just means they're going to keep working, unlike the old Jaguar switches. I still feel like Malcolm Sayer and Sir William are, you know, turning over in their graves at this thing. But, whatever. Let's fire it up. Okay, it gives you that annoying double-tone Jaguar bing that I absolutely hate. And music, let's turn that down. But it does have a very nicely laid out instrument cluster. So you've got little chromey surrounds over black gauges. You've got your temp gauge, your fuel gauge, your miles per hour, 170. I feel like that's very ambitious. And your tach. And then you have a couple little driver information centers in the middle of them, which I don't know how to switch. Here we go, trip. And average fuel, instant fuel, speed, nothing. Trip A, range, yeah, I mean, all very, you know, same stuff you have in an 85 model Cadillac. You got 46,000 miles on this thing, which is pretty good. Over on this side, you've got a clock. Surely there's some other crap that comes up there, but I don't immediately know how to do it. I don't see any, there we go, mile and kilometer. No, that's still all over. Now I've got kilometers on. So I don't know if there anything displays there. Maybe that's where the warning lights come up. We'll see what happens while we're driving. We'll see how much Jaguar they got in this thing. Okay, you've got this lovely walnutty, burly steering wheel, again, so you know you're in a Jaguar with some sort of faux real stitching. You've got the growler looking at you. This one doesn't look as angry. This one looks kind of chipper, like he's, you know, dumped his girlfriend for the night and going off on a tear, so he looks fairly cheerful. You've got your phone volume. It's got... What's it have? Mute on, mute off. You know, all the multi-function stuff on the wheel. You can turn the radio up and down. You can turn on, this is your cruise control over here. This is your radio here. Yeah, you know, I don't know. Something about Cat Stevens I just find disgusting. I know he had his moments, but, you know, seriously, Cat, shut the fuck up. Anyway, you've got, over here, you've got your fog lights, your light controls. Other than these light controls, you've got your fuel release, trunk release. You got a neat little compartment here that does basically nothing. It won't fit a minigun. It's too shallow for that. Maybe some change for the toll if you still have those. Otherwise, this is a completely useless compartment. The map pockets, yeah, you fit something in there, but not much. And then this little one right here, you could put something in. Does it have power? Yeah, it's got a power tilt and telescoping wheel. That's all nice, so you can adjust it accordingly. Probably make it part of the memory seats. You've got vents that the detailer didn't bother to align. I've told him to do that. You've got this big, again, rich, beautiful wood on the dash, but you just feel like you're being pandered to with it. Here's your climate control. This one doesn't have the big touchscreen nav system, which is fine. It was crap in '08 and would be crap today. You're probably better off with just the radio. The oldies station. At least it is playing oldies. That was an oldie when I was a kid, thank Christ. Your in-dash CD, you've got your heated seats here, your door locks, your traction control if you want to turn it off. More wooden stuff over the ashtray, which it does have a real ashtray. Very traditional Jaguar J shifter with the 6-speed. Nice. Works very well. And here's a feature that I absolutely hate, and that's electric parking brakes. I mean, I feel like the parking brake is an e-brake, emergency brake, not just for parking. And I don't get any satisfaction. I'm driving 40 miles an hour and the brakes quit. I want to have a very manual connection between me and the cable going to the rear brakes. With this thing, who the hell knows? Really, who knows? I mean, it's got Jaguar. I mean, granted it's Ford, but you're still in a Jaguar and you're depending on this electronic contrivance for your safety, and that just, boy, does that give me the creeps. Here you've got a sliding center console that can go back and reveal cup holders. Why one is smaller than the other to the point of uselessness, I don't know. A little chrome button, you can open it up, and in there you'll find a 12-volt outlet and a decent place. You're not fitting a big revolver, a big J-frame thing in there. You're just not. It's going to be too tight. You're going to have to go with a Walther. Some sort of I guess you could fit a small revolver, obviously, some kind of, Lady Smith, but otherwise, I think you're just stuck with maybe a 3 or 4 inch barrel 9mm, which should be good enough to defend yourself, should you need it. Oh, God, I don't know if I can reach the glove box. I can't. It's locked anyway. Fantastic. Anyway, it does have a glove box, all very nice. You've got a self-dimming mirror there. You've got more light controls. You've got a place to put ye old English sunglasses. And then you've got a big, proper, whatever the hell it is, sunroof that you can run back if you want. Let's go for a drive. Can we see the cat? Yeah, you can just see the leaper up there, just barely. I will say this, the driving dynamics of this car are pretty good. Better than I would have expected. You've got double wishbones at the 4 corners. The traction control isn't very intrusive. The V8s, you can turn them sideways. You could have a bit of fun with them. The 6 is not as much, but, that's not really why people buy these cars. The steering, pretty responsive. The engine is pretty responsive. The brakes are adequate. I won't say they're going to throw you through the window, and they're not too light. They're just nice feel. And driving around, it does have sort of a, I'm not going to say it has a traditional Jaguar feel, because that's ridiculous. It doesn't. But it's obviously been tuned by the guys at Jaguar to feel more like a Jaguar than the Ford platform that it was based off of. You get a pretty nice note out of that 6. You've got very adequate acceleration. The ZF shifts perfectly as it's designed to, and going down the road just feels fine. It's, light steering effort. The seat is very comfortable. I don't feel in any way unpleasant, but I also don't really feel like I'm in a Jaguar in that sort of vintage, lovely, ye old English way that they're going for. I mean, if they're going to go for it, I'm not sure they picked the right platform to do it on. They could have made this thing a lot less pedestrian. But you know what? Here's the thing about this car that I like. Obviously, Jaguar suffers from some of the worst resale values known to humankind. So at a certain point, you can start giving them out as Christmas presents without hurting the bank. And this is no different. I mean, these went from being, $50,000, $60,000 cars to, being under 10 grand or thereabouts for the nicest ones. And, that makes them very reliable. So if you're a pedestrian car kind of guy, and you might be buying a Honda Accord or an Acura, or I guess an Acura is different, but whatever, you just need transportation. Assuming this car is reliable enough, which basically it is, it's a Ford Mondeo, Lincoln LS, Thunderbird, but you can use it as a daily driver while fooling some of the people around you into thinking you have a little bit more class and style than you really do. And perhaps that's why the sales of these cars did pretty well. I mean, people could glob onto the whole Jaguar theme, start wearing those little leather gloves when they're driving around, and smoking a pipe with jacket with patches on it. There, I didn't turn on the airplane mode. Oh look, we got them out. Okay, I'm going to buy them. The roosters, they're out. There was a friggin' peacock the other day. A friggin' peacock, and he was nervous, and he was, look at these things. Just congregating like street toughs on the corners. I'm watching you guys. Yeah, I hear you. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on them. So they are congregating down here. Fortunately, they're silent. I don't have to hear too much of their cawing or whatever the hell it is, crowing. But if that peacock comes back, that's the last thing anybody needs is a friggin' peacock. I mean, honestly, what are you going to eat them? I mean, what do you have them for? Oh, it's a peacock in the yard. It's more that British thing, You should sell them this car. Anyway, so there it is. There's my review of the '08 Jaguar S-Type. This was the final year for this car. It became the XF, and Tata, or whatever the hell that Indian company is, had bought Jag by then and have turned it into a company that really doesn't hearken as much to old Jaguar as they used to, which is good or bad depending on how you look at it. I'll be back tomorrow. I think I can get that Hummer ready. We'll have a bit of fun with that. And otherwise, I hope you guys stay chipper. And again, really appreciate the support. You can't imagine. It's keeping me going through all this. And look forward to seeing you tomorrow with the next one. Take care.